He can do up against BDD. Let's jump into picks and bans for game number 1.
The evolving meta here in Korea hasn't been so kind to Griffin. Teams are increasingly not banning 3 must bans on the red side. Aatrox, the Taliyah, and the Nocturne. They're banning Shen's second ban. We'll see it here as well. Katie Rolster showed this. Feels like Lahens is very top-heavy on his champion pool. The Shen is his big super pick. He's a good Morgana, but of course Morgana's a bit more understated. And from there, it feels like Griffin are being hurt because they don't actually draw a Swain ban. That's the other ban we see on the red side, not against Griffin, is the Swain. But Griffin have been very unconvincing on Swain. They will be having it available if they want it. I'm sure they know just as well as we do that Swain has been a down pick for them. Seems like the Taliyah will be the first pick over the Nocturne. So I imagine we'll see Cuz consider the Nocturne, or maybe even look for something like a Trundle. Because remember, Griffin could just have Chovy jump on the Taliyah and go for Tarzan's Trundle, 7-0 on the season.
I mean, we saw it from other mid laners. You know, Lavo was playing a little bit of it, but also Cal recently, his star performance in the mid lane. Chovy, he's definitely mechanically skilled enough to pull that off, but as you mentioned, Griffin, they're not going to take the Swain away, but Kingzone, very happy to do so. They'll pick that for their side, as well as the number 2 jungler. I'd say, number 1, number 2 in terms of Nocturne.
I think with the Nocturne, against another team, you consider leaving Nocturne open because, oh, they have Taliyah. But against Griffin in particular, and you respect Tarzan for his ability to play level 6 junglers, you think Trundle, you think Sejuani, you think the Nocturne as well. Probably a smart takeaway there by Kingzone. On the side of Griffin, they do have the Morgana open, so at least for Lahens it is comfort. But basically, when you see Lahens, you know that boy really wants to be playing Shen.
He wants Shen. If not, he can play Morgana and Soraka, but Soraka we don't really see here all too often, so you notice how they swoop up they scoop up the Morgana real fast because they do not want it to go into the second phase of banning where Kingzone would just have a hell of a time just banning out everything else. But look at this, the Orianna also going to be taken here by Griffin. Another big pick here in the recent patch.
Definitely, I really like the matchup into Zoe. That's where Fly has played it twice in 2 victories. I don't know if we're in blind pick Orianna territory. It could, of course, be the Swain, but we have seen Prey have good games on Swain. It's a little bit surprising to see this high priority. We'll see if Griffin's draft is based around this. Chovy's passivity on the Orianna didn't count well in the 1 game they've played on Ori, and his shockwaves in teamfights were almost absent against Katie Rolster. That was the game where Yukal's Swain Rise ultimates basically undid any synergy with the Orianna. So we'll wait and see. And the moment you see something like an Orianna, that quarterback-style control mage, Alistair from Gorilla, a legendary pick for him to put more backline threat, and suddenly Nocturne and Alistair start running at Orianna, and there's only so much she can do.
Yeah, I mean, it already feels like the draft is swaying in Kingzone's direction. A lot of what we've been seeing up against Nocturne drafts is picking a lot of tanks and stuff to shut it down. The Cho'Gath, the Galio left available, but they pick a lot of picks that are not so good straight into the Nocturne.
But let's give Griffin the credit for a next level, because in the LPL, we see some Orianna bot lane in certain matchups. There's an outside chance Viper could be on the Orianna here, and they're trying to bait something on the side of Kingzone. I'm sure everyone now has been watching what LGD is doing, especially among the coaching staff in the pro teams. We haven't seen it in Korea, but there definitely is some validity to the Orianna bot lane. We'll keep, giving it lip service. If it's never picked in Korea, then it's just a thing, but there is the chance that Griffin trying to next level with the first round Orianna.
Yeah, I like the ban of the GP. They don't want Khan to just get in a really comfortable matchup against a blind pick tank, which seems very kind of obvious right now for Griffin. They're going to need some ball carriers, and they're going to need some frontline against what Kingzone have. So I do like the 2 bans they go for. Also going to take away Mundo.
Where Khan wants to visit here, and also where the Swain is going. Swain Alistair, really strong duo, so you think Swain Alistair bot lane, thus solo lanes being required by the side of Kingzone. Speaking of solo lanes, this is what Khan was defaulting to in the LCK Spring Final. You and I cast, of course, a lot of Khan Cho'Gath after he had not really played it in the entire spring season. Does very well against the effective champion pool open. You're thinking Orin, well, you definitely take Cho'Gath in that matchup. The Gnar is one matchup that, of course, can be a bit tricky, but Cho'Gath with his sustain is stronger than many tanks in a Gnar matchup. So it doesn't have so many picks when it comes to what he usually plays. Will default on the Gnar, a decent ball carrier if that Mega Gnar is there.
Yeah. at least his Gnar win percent has been a lot better. He's 1-0 on that compared to the 0-2 of Cho'Gath. I also feel like the Cho'Gath was a bit of a takeaway as well, because it definitely was one of those higher tier picks, one of the more obvious ones that we see all the time against Nocturne. So Kingzone's like, well, we could just blind pick that instead with everything that else that got banned here. They're going to go for the Gnar and the Ezreal, which means that they need to do a lot of kiting on the side of Griffin.
Final pick here for Kingzone. It's going to be mid lane. BDD has played precious little Galio, but it is, of course, a big pick for him in the past. Looking at what they want to do here against the Orianna, there's so many different schools of thought. Orianna opens up a lot of champions into her. Maybe the Ryze is one that you want to avoid, but the Yasuo would be a fun one when it comes to synergy. Gorilla and also Khan might be able to set things up. BDD jumps on the Yasuo. Hype pick. We heard about the Faker Yasuo, then we saw the BDD Yasuo and loved it as well. They go for it here. A lot of mixed damage on the side of Kingzone. For the side of Griffin, they may have a pushing lane in top, but to me, I want to see how the junglers impact the bot lane, because in the mid lane, the Yasuo should have a pretty long leash to get a nice farm total early in the piece.
Out of the 3 mid laners we saw, right, the Galio, the Yasuo, and the Vel'Koz, I do feel like the Yasuo will be the best. You consider how many just range poking abilities that Griffin has. Even just the wind wall is going to be nice. It fits in really well with all of the other picks that you have in your lineup. Lots of knockups, lots of ways to make that Yasuo pertinent once you do full-on engage.
But you could also mention what doesn't it have, and Wave Clear is certainly at a premium on the side of Kingzone. Grouping with the Orianna Ezreal, 2 items on the Ezreal could be very powerful. So definitely there are some things to work on with Griffin. I'm very excited to see how Tarzan can open up the game, and if Chovy can have a bounce-back performance, because I think Orianna will be a big-ticket mid laner for the majority of LCK Summer as far as we can see. And Viper's on a marksman. The awesome dude is actually on the side of Kingzone, which is always a bit of a surprise.
It's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait to see what he can do on that pick. We've applauded him for so many other performances. The Vlad specifically, still undefeated on that pick. And by the way, that just fell all the way through pick and ban. Was not banned or picked by either side. So seems like definitely this ever-changing meta is still ever-changing, to the surprise of no one. So guys, looks like game number 1 is ready to go, and we're going to do it. Griffin versus Kingzone, game number 1.
수환사의 협곡에 오신 것을 환영합니다.
Here we go, match 62 here. It's going to be Chovy back on the Orianna up against BDD's Yasuo. We've seen what some Yasuos can do recently. BDD looking to be one of the cool ones that gets the triple knock-up and kills the squishy lineup of Griffin. We'll see if he can actually pull it off.
Match 62 of 90 Valdez. We have 2 more weeks of full competition. 6 weeks today, guys. 6 days this week. We will be playing Friday. No Friday match day, but 5 match days next week, and then just an abbreviated match day, and we're already into playoffs. So things are definitely coming in thick and fast. It is a 3-match day tomorrow. So we'll have 3 matches starting at 2 p.m. Korean Standard Time. So the earliest start for a Super Wednesday. Getting through this season nice and fast. Only 1/3 left. No closer to knowing who will be the first place team. We have the gauntlet here in Korea, so the first place team does skip all the way to the grand final. For a lot of the season was looking like Griffin will be the unlikely story, but they've come crashing down to earth just like Kingzone in their Rift Rivals failures, and thus it's very interesting to see which of these 2 teams will come out ahead.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of mention from Spo TV about how the early game is really important for Kingzone, how they have to kind of get a foundation underneath them in order for things to continue going well. But Griffin, one of the things we've learned about them in the time that we've had them here in the LCK is that their early game is not all that strong. Oftentimes they fall a little bit behind, sometimes more than others, and it's really their ability to team fight and play as a team and try to play off of Tarzan and see if he can try to carry them back from that early game to actually win games at times.
And that was their MO in Challenger, so we were surprised to see them so much more robust in LCK Summer at the start, but I'm sure there were people out there who thought that maybe the meta change had masked some of their shortcomings. Maybe Viper having more agency on champions before, say, 3 items because of the nature of the awesome dude Vladimir rather than a marksman might have been something to allow them to just be a bit more clean, and that may actually eventually be the understanding we have. We can't know. We're still plenty of the season remaining in terms of best of 3s. But Griffin have things to work on, and around the top side, Sword has been up and down. He's got the lane control in terms of the early matchup, but the trades so far, we've seen them on screen for a little while here. They're not quite as clean.
Yeah, speaking of things that he has to work on, his Mega Gnar form can definitely be worked on based on what we've seen here. Very interesting jungle pass from both of the junglers. The Taliyah actually starting blue buff side by herself with no leash, and the Nocturne actually starting on the Wolves. They both got one Scuttle Crab, and it's just been a total farm fest from the jungle. No early ganks in this game.
Really feels like Nocturne is one of the picks that every competitive jungler has a different route they like to min-max on when it comes to power farm and when it comes to which Scuttle they want to pick up. In this case, it was bot lane Scuttle for Kingzone. Very happy because Prey and Gorilla, of course, shorter range, more committal. Get a bit of coverage there, and top side for Griffin, so that makes sense in terms of where the strong lanes are. Speaking of strong lanes, Viper and Lehens pushing up a pretty grouped minion wave here, and if a binding or a seismic shove hits, a lot of threat onto Prey and Gorilla.
Looking for it now. Ooh, quick flash there from Prey. Nicely done, but at least Tarzan able to easily and quickly get the flash out of Prey.
And that was as Gorilla was walking over for a ward, so it couldn't have been cleaner in terms of timings. On the side of Griffin, you'd love to interview them and know if there's a certain time in the game where Gorilla, if he's being pushed in, just has the propensity to put down a ward, or if it was just fortunate. Still, seismic shove on point. Flash is gone. Nice play by Griffin.
Yeah, looks like Taliyah just gonna return, gonna go over to her Raptors, and this is all even before one back. Just goes up to the top side too, looking for the 3rd scuttle of the game. Looks like Tarzan will get there first as well, so we'll see if any fights do break out. If the Nocturne gets on top of the Taliyah and dodges the seismic shove, generally it goes the side of Nocturne, but Taliyah clears the scuttle super fast, especially after level 3, and Tarzan just able to scoop it up real quick.
It was in smite range. That gives enough mana to be able to turn for some sort of a 1v1. Want to respect the Taliyah, so all makes sense.
We have a nice fight down here. Lehens with no black shield, and he is just going to be dead meat. First blood. Almost anticlimactically as he just ran straight into the Alistair with no way to get away.
He got ultra dunked. That was the exact full rotation from Prey, and Gorilla Ignite is up. Lehens in the death chamber. Morgana is far from Shen. The win rate is decent, but we've seen Lehens die 2v2 on the Morgana a few times this season. It's a growing pain point for them because they can't afford to give lane control over to the Swain and Alistair.
It's definitely unfortunate. It's not what you want out of Lehens. If only he could have gotten his Shen. Well, bad news for him is that Kingzone will be on blue side next time, and it's an even easier ban for them that time around.
I think Griffin on red side will still be very powerful. I think on red side, they're able to get the counter picks to make their playstyle work. But on blue side, they're really exposed. Some teams in this meta do prefer blue side for certain reasons, but I think Griffin gets exposed because you can ban Shen and give them Swain, and you feel like you've got everything. You hit the bonanza just giving away anything other than Shen. To the side of Griffin, they've shown that whether Chovy is playing the bot lane Swain or Viper is on the Swain, they're not convincing with the pick, and it doesn't play with their natural tendency of picking pretty low engage comps. Swain just gets outranged by a Varus, and it goes poorly for the side of Griffin. They've got the Morgana this time that, again, win rate-wise is strong for them. Unless Tarzan puts a lot of effort into helping out this lane, and he's already blown a flash, then things don't go so well.
Yeah, the other thing about the Swain is that you get a free check of somewhere close on the map. Just about once every 20 seconds. It's really reliable for you, especially if you have any fear that the return gank is going to come in. And, well, it was perfect timing, as just then Tarzan was able to roll up. It looks like now Gorilla and Prey both getting 2 control wards together. They're going to clear out all the vision as well down there.
Teamfight comp from Kingzone. They probably need Gorilla to engage most teamfights as a dive buddy with the Nocturne, but Swain needs, of course, other people to open up the engage, and we will see that here from Gorilla, I imagine, on one of his career most played. Seeing if Tarzan can buff up this early game, keep everything go comfortably on the top side. Kind of awkward this Sword has been forced to go double Dorans in the lane against the Cho'Gath. Seen many different builds. Wit's End was one we saw, actually, against AP tops, if you are the Gnar and AP top tank. The double Dorans, though, does delay that first item, and I'm sure Khan sees that, smiles, and says, cool.
Just going to get that much farther ahead. There's a nice chunky wave pushing into Sword right now, but still the Cho'Gath is going to be miles ahead in that one. We have been getting a nice look at the mid lane too. The Observer likes to check in on that one every once in a while, and so far it's been pretty even. BDD's been doing a good job of blocking the ball with his wind wall and just making sure he can farm up really well. The Orianna was forced into the Scepter's arm guard early too, which means that she's going to be a little bit lacking on mana regen and also a little bit of AP. So a little bit of a win there as well. Notice that Cuz was hanging around looking for a play towards the mid side, but the Tornado did miss from BDD rather.
While it is ranged versus melee, and we saw BDD rolling over people as the Orianna a few days ago, like we mentioned in Champion Select, this is a very comfortable lane for Yasuo. It's very hard to hit QW poke onto a Yasuo. He's too damn able to surf around the minions and stay alive. So while he won't necessarily be winning in CS, he's going to be competitive. And if you give Yasuo mostly a free lane, the Yasuo is really happy.
He's sitting here, he's got double control ward on his right side in the lane. By the way, there's 4 control wards on the map right now from King's Zone. The only control ward I see from the side of Griffin is a extremely defensive one behind Chovy in the mid lane. He's really worried about, especially that Alistar coming in for a turret dive, so at least he'll be safe from that.
BDD will have to set this up himself because lying in wait. See if a big Q play can happen here, but Chovy showing a lot of respect so far. We know Talia could join with the weave as well. She's surfing her way to mid lane as well.
BDD has been looking for that opening, but with the lack of action that we do have, Cuz was thinking about the Drake. He was hanging around the Mountain Drake, and there's also the Scuttle Crab that's coming in. Notice that Gorilla's here too. Shows his face though. Tarzan is waiting in the wings too. So no gank once again, and we've only had the 1 kill in the bottom lane off the mistake from Lehens.
King's Zone get the bot side scuttle. Sokaz is already setting up for the Drake. In terms of scaling here, does feel like the team fights will be very competitive, but the mid game will be dominated by Viper if he can hit 2 items at a relatively decent clip. Orianna has an infinite scaling, but the moment you see Seeker's Arm Guard first, you know that the burst is not going to be too scary too early. Can Chovy have those big shockwave plays that really were not evident from him against KT is also an evolving question mark, just like when we talk about Lehens on the Morgana.
All the control that King's Zone have on the bottom side with the domination that Gorilla has been able to put down there. They just pick up a free Drake. The Talia was just hanging around the top side. Also, Cuz got an extra Scuttle Crab, which you guys can see up at the top. It's 3-2 now, as he has caught up with the last 2 scuttles. So things going very well for the jungle and just the objective side of things for King's Zone, and for now I'm sure they're happy about that.
And it's definitely not a given with the comp that they have. The Cho'Gath does very well against Gnar early, just because Cho'Gath has very good trading and sustain, and Gnar wants points in hyper before he can really start bullying away a tank. Or Phage would be very nice as well, so it's not that surprising that it's a bit of a CS lead up top, but the amount of map control they're getting with a Nocturne versus with a Talia is the surprising thing, and the control ward sticking this long in terms of map control has been the bonus for the side of King's Zone.
Gorilla kind of just lives in the mid lane, by the way. Sitting on level 6, he knows that he has the opportunity to go for a big dive onto an Orianna if it comes up with the help of Cuz, but so far, I mean, Chovy's been playing the lane aspect of playing it safe, at least, pretty well, so he's not going to be caught out by any ganks, even if he doesn't see them coming.
And it's 12 minutes in, so Swain has a stopwatch. He's got a rod of ages. He doesn't care too much. That is, friendly neighborhood Alistar is not staying in lane, and Alistar, of course, represents the last breath every time he roams, so it's double ignite between Gorilla and BDD as well, so a lot of threat onto the Orianna. Probably going to be Ludens here for Chovy. I think a late Archangel's and a Seeker's Arm Guard is just screaming no damage, so I think the Ludens will be the second completion. Sword clears away a control ward, and I guess we should inspect how often this game Kingzone has a control ward lead, because one of the criticisms I'm hearing from some of the Korean pros is that Griffin really cuts it short with control wards, doesn't actually ward the map that much, and gets away with it because they just get a couple of ganks or the early game is passive. Passivity is one thing, but also giving away Drakes to Kingzone's comp is not ideal either.
Especially not double mountain. When you have that Swain in your lineup, you're always going to be lacking just a bit of that Baron damage. They have a nice amount with the Yasuo and the Nocturne at least, but you don't want to give up the double mountain Drake. We'll just make that even faster. And yeah, I mean, you were talking about the control wards. It's been only the most passive of ones. They're trying to keep it alive for as long as possible. Oh, there's the Talia burst damage, and he's going for more, looking for it over the wall. The flash, though, from Cuz. He is going to survive. Trading for it. Oh, that was so close. Viper just going to go wide. As Cuz didn't have his flash, that was the only way, was going to be dodging, and well, he doesn't get caught.
Cuz definitely had the moment where you just wonder if that's how your life ends as that gold goes through the rift, true shot barrage. A Teemo, maybe half a Teemo away from hitting onto the Nocturne. That would have been the sort of punish that would have bought Griffin the time they're clearly looking for. They get the time anyway, but Nocturne backs away. No kills to the way of Viper. Definitely the closest moment of the game.
It's a rough one. Would have been fantastic for Viper to pick up that kill, just to get that snowball rolling, get him to 2 items a little bit earlier, especially with Griffin a bit behind here in the early game. We'd love to get that Ezreal online, but no can do. It's been a bit of a hard one down there for Viper after that early kill. He's down 20 CS. The top lane has been just what you guys would expect. Very even. Sword hasn't been able to push in before he picks up his items just yet. So, just farming for now.
Realize I haven't explained the Teemo expression a few times. Teemo is actually exactly 100 units of width. I imagine length as well. He's just 100 units, so.
A little box. Yeah.
We all know like Ashe has 600 range. She literally has 6 Teemos worth of range. So that's why it's fun to use it sometimes, to just vary the vocabulary. Gorilla will be spotted if he walks over this ward, but Sword isn't going to commit. Gorilla's been unlocked on the map, and this reminds me of the Rocks Tigers of old. In 2016, Gorilla roaming around on Alster was one of the most endearing images of a normal Kingzone game.
He's been doing it the whole game. Unfortunately, a lot of his target has been set on Chovy in the mid lane, but Chovy has been very, very comfortable. He's farming up. He has the most farm in the game. You mentioned his items. It's going to take a long time for the Orianna to actually do any damage, but if she can farm up to it and play it very passively and not get ganked, she's going to be really happy about that.
She is, but again, this game feels like timings to me. I need to see 2-item Ezreal just comboed with the Orianna, and that actually means something in terms of the game state, because although there's a marksman in the late game, although Griffin have more reliable Baron take, and even then, Cho'Gath, Nocturne, Yasuo can do decent Baron damage. Gorilla.
Oh boy. The Talia dream, and he's looking for it now, but the flash headbutt onto the Scuttle Crab. He's really trying to get out of here, but that ultimate is going to come down eventually. Has a stopwatch, but even with the missed seismic shove, there was just no escape for Gorilla. Even burns his flash to try to get away, but still goes down.
Combos keep doing 3/4 of people's health in the early game, and Kingzone going for a one-man mission on other side of the map fine, and this side of the map not as good as Cuz is spotted.
Oh boy, he's in so much trouble too. He's trying to go onto the Talia. He does a lot of damage, but once again, just Cuz caught in a weird spot is going to go down 1v3.
Especially when it's still 20 seconds till the Drake spawns. It's not like he was lying in wait for a Nocturne ultimate steal. It's a bonus kill onto the side of Griffin. The Gorilla one explainable, that one not as much so as Khan wants to kill.
Uh-oh, he gets knocked up trying to dodge to the north. The easiest beast you've ever seen. Khan, he is back with the solo kill.
Against his old buddy, the person who he said should clean his neck. Well, this time, he's able to get the solo kill. It was an easy win for Sword first time, but that was on old Aatrox and patches past. On the Cho'Gath here, a solo kill for this Comet Khan is a feel-good moment for Kingzone.
It's really fantastic. It's going to be great to try to shut down any items that do come in from the Gnar. We're going to take another look at this. There's the ward in the river, and he just sees him on the edge of that there. Is able to use the blasting plant too. Gorilla, it looks cool, but Tarzan once again goes for another wall to go for the kill, and this time it pays off.
So I don't see too much Talia even in my solo queue games because banned. I forget.
You gotta play with me.
I forget that you just randomly do someone's entire health bar in the early game.
If you get the full combo off, which is seismic shove into the rocks that you lay down, and then you just get the full Q, it's gonna be anyone's health bar, except
I've
probably
noticed.
the Cho'Gath.
I've noticed how much of the health bar it is in the early game with just a Runic Echo. Pretty cool, but Kingzone can reload. They made a couple of mistakes here, but in terms of neutrals, they now have the mid lane out of turret. Now Orianna's life sucks a little bit more. She's not so good in a long lane. We're going to watch the replay. Sword has his flash the entire time. We think about when he could have flashed. Maybe you should have tried to tempt fate by going for the fat wall flash and hoping the Cho'Gath would fail it, but this is a straight up solo kill. Silence from flashing at the end. Too easy for Khan.
You get that slow, you get a couple of knockups, and all of a sudden the Cho'Gath is, he's a killer in his own right, even if he is a tank. Built that Righteous Glory first to catch up to the Gnar as well, to help out with a bit of armor. So it's been a nice lane for him up on the top side. Starting to worry about this Talia for Kingzone, actually. Tarzan has been looking really clean on this so far, and I mean, you guys can see how much damage it can do, especially early on in the game.
And it's a treat to watch him on a champion away from his usual Trundle. 7-0 on the season. He's played a lot of Sejuani as well. Seeing him on a threat, the Kindred didn't really work out because Kindred's kind of a weird champion when it comes to how games play out with her, especially if you don't have a good early game team, which we know from Griffin is usually passivity. But on a threat champion that also has a lot of mobility around the map, like this Talia, it's a second impressive performance from him on a champion that's a bit different from his recent picks. His mid lane, actually top lane.
Yeah, he does have his flash this time around, but the fear is going to tether on in. He's going to stop watch. We'll see if he does commit to the flash. There it is. Gets away from the silence. Khan was trying to time it just after he came out of the stopwatch, but the flash will almost always be faster.
Seemed like Cuz was a little bit desynced from the Cho'Gath. If he got that half a second earlier, maybe the play goes differently as the stasis is used a bit further away from the turret. This time gets away. Still nice to use those tools. Speaking of tools, Prey and Gorilla just been able to use their tankiness and also their CC to keep this turret up for a pretty long time. Whenever the marksman comp isn't able to get out of bot lane in a 2v2 at 20 minutes, that's a really long laning phase for the Swain. You thought I was going somewhere else when you thought I was calling Prey and Gorilla tools. They're actually really nice people.
Kind of crossed my mind, but absolutely not.
I saw the look on your face like, is he just
They're both
blaming
teddy
his
bears,
friends?
yeah. Couple of tools down the bottom side. Yeah.
No, that wasn't it.
It's your boys Chad and Brad here on the casting desk. Oh, yeah.
Have you ever met a Chad that was a good dude?
I haven't. Well, I don't think I've ever met a Chad, actually. A guy named Chad. I've met a lot of Chads in my life, that's for sure. There's a healthy number of them in the world. But no Chads here on the Rift. Everybody very nice on these pro gaming teams. Speaking of nice, Tarzan has been the most helpful Talia ever with 3.5 minutes of jungle presence time.
It's been near enemy champions for the majority of the game. We've seen the one rotations almost kill. Been a great early game for him in service of 2 items on the Ezreal. And Viper says, hey boys, we're going long. And you know what? With the Orianna pick, we knew that's what Griffin wanted. With the early kills that came through, yeah, it's probably going to be fine to opt into a 30-minute Archangels into Seraph's transformation and not lose too much power. I think Kingzone can still win team fights in that scenario. As Tarzan is, he's doing pretty well.
Yeah. The thing about Talia is that if you have Smite up, you kill the Scuttle Crab in 0.5 seconds. Not even joking. You just one-shot it. If you don't have Smite up, you kill it in 1.5 seconds. You got to wait for all of your rocks to hit off of your Q. I know she's not the most popular champion because she's really hard to play, but she is damn strong. And that's why she gets banned almost all the time here in competitive play. There have been other bans that have been slipping in, you know, the Shen and the Swain has been slipping in on the red side, but that just means we get to see a whole lot more of Talia, which makes me really happy.
And I'm going to keep my eyes trained on BDD because I think in team fights he has so much agency. We know Windwall does so well against the Talia. It also stalls the Orianna ball as well. That could affect a shockwave situationally in a fight. And he's also going to be very hard to shut down. So I think that could be big as bot lane.
Poor Sword, man. It's just everybody getting on the Sword boat here. It's not going to work out. And hello, Khan. You weren't looking. The paranoia doesn't work on you. The stopwatch is going to come in, though. Double stopwatch. They're going to try to lock him down, but here's Gorilla. The three-man knockup is huge. Is it going to be enough? Khan just go down, but the rest of Griffin is on the run. Lahan's is going to survive for now. The binding comes in too, and BDD is going to be forced to flash, but is trying to go down here and get one more kill before he goes down. The stopwatch with 5 health left here. He will go down in the end. Up in the top side, it looks like Prey is up there all alone. Here comes the Taliyah onto the support by himself. Should be able to take him out eventually. There it is with this chilling smite for the last hit. And Viper, he wants to get that final kill on a Prey. The 1Q is going to be close, but he does not continue on the chase.
Can't get the cooldown reduction onto the arcane shift to go in. I think the yakety sax music was playing pretty loud in my head. Valdez, Kingzone made a lot of poor choices through all of this. They may end up getting an Infernal just by chance. Khan isn't watching, like you say. Well, we know where he's watching. He's watching the Nocturne ultimate, and then he's like, crap, there's 2 people here. He goes for a solo mission, flashes in for the ult, but that's as teleport is being used, and he now realizes maybe I shouldn't have used my flash so decisively. I've got backup coming. To this point, it's at least explainable where the game is going, but BDD takes most of his health bar just to chip damage from Chobi, gets a flash kill with, I believe, the Ignite, and then from there, he's on no health, wastes his stopwatch. This is not the Yasuo play I was hoping to really watch, and from there, because BDD donated his life for science to the enemy team,
oh yeah,
just Yasuo things, everyone has to die on the side of Kingzone. It's just incredibly poor play in multiple different ways.
Yeah, I would have to agree. It's kind of funny to see Tarzan block out Chovy. He's like, no, Gorilla is mine. I would kill him alone. Chovy did help out with the ball, but it's kind of funny to see that one. But after all that, looks like the most damage does go to Taliyah, as is expected, as she stayed alive the entire fight. But we are going to have a pause here at 24 minutes, as Griffin did just take the lead in gold by about 1,000. We're going to have to wait and see what the problem is, guys. As always, the refs are sprinting through the arena to fix the problem.
Today is not a day for sprinting. I've learned it is very, very hot today. So
you did a little bit of that earlier today.
I did go to the gym. It was, I don't know if it was a recommended day to go to the gym.
No.
Some people would argue there's never a recommended day to go to the gym, but as I was walking home through the 35-degree heat, I realized that, you know what? I had so much sweat on my T-shirt that I could probably have swum in it like a pool. So it is really hot over here.
I mean, you technically did, right? If it was wet enough, you were swimming around in that T-shirt. Looks like the problem is on the side of Griffin. Don't have any updates. We're checking the issue right now, but it seems like Tarzan has a game issue. I was trying to mimic the producer in my ear.
Is there one he'd rather play than League of Legends? Like, oh, this isn't Clash Royale at all. Seems like some sort of bug is what we're being informed. It's an ult-related bug. If it's a Taliyah ult bug, that'd be annoying.
Yeah, it's just they won the fight, and the Taliyah got the ultimate to block Gorilla, so I don't really know what the problem could be. Maybe he got stuck afterwards. Was only able to recall or something like that.
Another Taliyah bug. There's Taliyah bug in my games sometimes in solo queue where Taliyah's in the game, and I'm like, what? I can't ban all the things, Valdez.
Yeah.
I try so hard, as we're getting an update here now on a Sword game issue as well. So it seems like the game issues are spreading.
Yeah, it's after the Weaver's Wall came down. You know, Tuck Frump and all that. But he was probably just blocked out for some reason, probably couldn't walk in a straight line.
This is a pretty tight shot. There's a lot of people in the shot, though.
We got 4 people in that shot.
We got 4 people within 100 units.
Oh, no, there was a mystery guy behind that guy. It's actually 5.
Whoa. I would be like, whoa, can you guys just give me a bit of space
back off?
here? Well, only the best and finest technical support at SPO TV. A lot of backup required. We are 24 minutes into what is a very even game 1 here between Griffin and Kingzone. First thought right now is that if Griffin can execute their next team fight with Ezreal as strong as he is, just as a champion at 2 items, it's potentially a big win for them here. But we really haven't had something team fight worthy. We saw a replay of, I guess you could call it a team fight of 1-by-1 Kingzone killing themselves, but hopefully we see something a bit more coordinated. For example, I'd love to see a shockwave with just at all.
You might be asking for a little bit too much, Papa. We don't have good shockwaves here in the
We
LCK.
had the BBQ Oliver's loss where they used the shockwave as the Nexus died for the
yeah.
first time in the game. I, for one, would
Wasn't
like
that like
more.
the first game of Oriana as well in Summer?
It was a second. The first was Fly, and then it was Tent.
So it's the same problem we had before with Talia's wall, where it went down, and then even after it disappeared, the player was blocked. Unfortunately, it was Sword, but we're still going to have the issue, even though it was a member of the same team.
And I believe it's related to the Talia pathing, but I'm not 100% clear on that. We're just spitballing at the moment. We get little updates for you guys, and considering furthering this current episode of Papa's Mad Life. It's been a while. We haven't had so many episodes. We've got a 3-match day tomorrow, so I have a good feeling that the podcast recording will happen.
We're going to take a look at the replay, guys. Let's see exactly what happens.
Sword's going for a nice walk in the jungle, as you do. It's a bit hot today, Sword. You probably shouldn't be wearing a hat. So he started moving in one direction, then started moving in another direction. It's very exciting so far. Let's see where we go from here.
It looked like he was just killing the red buff. Everything's, normal.
Got it. All right.
And
so far, we're practice tool. So basically what he's saying is that his pathing was impeded during this time, which is still an issue. Not a game-breaking issue, but an issue nonetheless. You're enjoying the replay choice there, aren't you?
I mean, the replay didn't show us anything that broke the game, right? There's no problem.
Yeah, but what if during that time he was clicking in the opposite direction? That'd be spooky.
Who cares?
It's spooky.
There are no spooky ghosts on the Rift today.
Not yet.
We haven't seen that item in a long time.
I miss Twisted Fate with Lichbane and Spooky Ghosts for the I will gold card everyone. Yes.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Twisted Fate's pretty good.
He was just waiting to kill the red buff, and then he killed the red buff, and then he walked to the bottom lane.
But his pathing was impeded. What if he got to the bot lane half a second earlier and killed a ranged minion and finished his item, then won the team fight? Yeah!
The only problem is if this persists, right? We go back onto the Rift, and the Talia wall is always there, even though it's not. The Talia wall, it was used up in the top river. Why is it even down here at the red buff?
You are the Talia main over here.
I've never had a bug in one of my games.
Really?
Yeah.
Even old days when there were lots of reliable bugs?
Yeah, no.
My favorite bug of all time was Cho'Gath related, actually, so topical. You must have had the bug where Cho'Gath would literally launch the person into space with his Q.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a bug you had. That was a bug. It was fixed.
I'm talking about Talia bugs.
Okay.
Yeah, not, yeah.
You just said you've literally never had a bug in one of your games.
I should have been more
There's
specific.
been a lot of bugs in League of Legends.
I've had a lot of bugs. Okay.
What's your favorite League of Legends bug you've had?
I mean, there have been a lot. I don't really
How
remember.
about Amumu's Global Laugh? That was pretty good.
I wouldn't call that my favorite, though. That's definitely one of the more annoying bugs we've had.
What about Taunty? When Thresh would miss his hook and there'd be a little text prompt that said Taunty at the bottom?
Taunty.
It was so funny. Those are two of my favorite bugs. Give us one. Come on, Valdez. There's been so many.
I honestly don't really remember. It's been a lot of years of League of Legends. I just don't remember.
I feel like when I ask you about your childhood, you don't remember League of Legends. Bugs of the past, you don't remember. How's your memory, Valdez?
It's good. My memory's fine. Look at Sword. He like has a totally normal game after all this. Isn't blocked by the ghost of the Weaver's Wall.
But he's spooked.
From what? The red buff?
Look, I'm not the one that has to examine this. This is the finest engineers at Spo TV.
Sword needs to examine his priorities right now.
This pathing looks a bit weird, to be honest.
Okay, he's trying to go to the right.
There was also a time where he was kind of walking at a weird angle. I think that definitely looks like his character's confused.
So it's like 3 or 4 times where he's trying to go to the right, and then he question mark pings himself. I mean, and he takes the red buff.
Still, that does suggest an issue that we thought was fixed is still in the game.
It's
I
weird
agree
too.
that it's not game-breaking in that case. I don't think you remake that. Do you chrono break it? I guess, maybe. But
I don't think so.
that's, yeah.
It's weird because the wall was in the top side, and he was still having an issue where he couldn't walk down on the bottom side.
We're trying to really understand what it's related. Maybe it isn't even Talia related. It's kind of the latest thought that the technical team is happening here.
You remember the last time, I think it was Mata, right? He was trying to run down the bottom side.
That was really bugged.
It was around the same area, right? So maybe it's just the bottom side that's a little bit haunted.
The blue side, the blue side red buff seems to be haunted.
It is a bit haunted.
To be fair, a lot of people have died there. Also, most of the other
Yes.
places on the Rift, but a lot of people have died there.
Specifically there. I remember a lot of games where the enemy jungle counter jungles me there and I die. Or my mid laner doesn't notice the roaming support and he's just face checking the jungle.
By that logic, a lot of the Rift would be cursed because a lot of death happens in most places.
How do they clean up the Rift every time? All the bodies are just there and they just disappear? Do they like de-summon them off the Rift?
Well, how do you respawn? That's something that hasn't really been explained.
Is it like a clone of your original self?
Or is it like Pokemon where you just, kind of just lay down for a bit and then get regened? I don't
Black
know.
out and then you just end up in the pool again?
To be fair, Blue Pill exists, so you can teleport back to base. So theoretically, the body could come back to base and be re-energized over the course of a death timer. That makes sense. We're working this out. We're myth busting over here.
Yeah.
But of course, we don't know about the line skill shots that go off the screen. I think the Ash arrows are definitely still flying somewhere.
What about the Zoe trouble bubbles? Those are the ones that get to me. You just shoot them off the map and they just continue going.
Maybe some of the critters that we see around the corner are getting stunned and taking extra damage.
Remember in the beginning of this split where SpoTV had the zoom in on the elk?
Yeah.
And then it showed all the different kills. I wonder what happened to that elk. We don't zoom in on him anymore.
It got hit by a chopper bubble.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
The poor elk. No, he got fired. SpoTV fired him.
Oh, good news. We got video games.
Sword decided, hey, I'm going to stop whining about my pathing.
We're going to definitely message Peter, guys. Don't worry. We need to find out about the elk. It's the only one I've seen on the Rift. It's probably endangered.
Oh, I thought he was trying to run to the right, but he ran left.
Now every time there's a juke, you're worried that it's some sort of game issue.
Originally, I thought he was just waiting for the red buff. I'm like, yeah, so what are we looking at here? But it looks like we do have League of Legos that we have to talk about. And it's a really close game between two of the best teams that we do have here. And so we should do exactly that. First place versus third place. Griffin at 25 minutes. Is only about 1,000 gold ahead. And finally, we're seeing Sword get his items where he can begin to bully the Cho'Gath.
He's gone for the old item build. Throws him out nerfed a few patches ago on ranged auto attackers. We'll see where he goes from here. This is kind of the laning core, but also decent in teamfight version. You're not going for a Wit's End Rage Blade. But you can opt into more laning itemization or more teamfight itemization from here. We'll keep track of what Sword goes for. Feels like items in a better spot for Griffin right now than for King Zone, as Cuz has a couple of intermediate items.
I just thought they were going to gank Sword again. And I'm like, guys, you remember you did not kill the bottom tier 1 turret. It's going to be a lot harder than it looks.
Definitely is Valdez, but yeah, I do like the item spots where they are for Griffin. That means if 5v5 happens, they're probably in pretty good condition. 2 items now on Chovy, who didn't condemn himself to Azonia's first. King Zone setting up for a turret take on the top side, and Khan just kind of hating his life, as now there's 5 points into that RW, and thus the trades very one-sided.
Yeah, I mean, he does have the Warmogs. It just means that Gnar is going to have the priority in most roams or in getting TPs off first, because he's going to push in Khan, and then he'll be able to go into the river. Khan can, kill all the creeps and regenerate his health, but definitely offers a bit more space to the Gnar.
Teamfight is going to be really fascinating here. Kind of alluded to it, but it was a while ago now with the pause that we had. While you look at these Orianna comps and think, yep, eventually they're going to get there. We saw the KT with the Realm Walk kind of trivialize the Orianna, split team fights, and we never saw, I don't think we even saw a 3-man Shockwave in the game. So Chovy, who hasn't had to use the Shockwave yet, is going to be an evolving question here, and Kingzone can pile on really good and potentially just stop there being a more standard fight. It's not Orianna Marksman versus another Marksman comp. It is very much a Bruiser comp against the Orianna Marksman comp. So while I personally have this kind of thought as to what a team fight looks like, KT have already shown us that there are ways to play against it that are just a little bit less explored.
It's scary to face check the jungle against Talia and Morgana, and even the Orianna. If you get hit in the face by any of those CCs, you might just die. Doesn't matter who you are.
Kingzone YOLOing.
This. Yeah, 50, or rather,
Cuz, don't tank it.
27 minutes here. Cuz at about half health. Lehans is going to come up here with the help of his friends. They do have the Mountain Drake, and they're running out of vision now with the Paranoia. Really nice head bump by Gorilla. Is going to delay the Talia getting in, and it's going to be the easiest flash from Khan to pick that up. Now Griffin looking for more kills, but everybody flashes the wall. All 5 flashes are going to be used, and Gorilla will happily give up his life. And Kingzone, the heist of the century, they pull it off.
They definitely get the objective. The worth question is going to be one that's going to be fun to watch. They have great Baron turn. That's why they trusted it, and the Paranoia plus the Feast meant they were confident in taking it around 1,000 health. But they have a lot down, and the next Shockwave is going to be against 3 members because they've got no flashes to try to get out of it.
Gotta hope that BDD's on top of having his wind wall in position. That's all I'll say, or else you could just be dying. But take a look at this. Very beautiful to take the Baron, at least.
They definitely had a clear call. I'm kind of in 2 minds about how much it's worth. Gorilla's a monster, by the way, for stopping Tarzan getting in the pit. That was all him. I was focused on the smite and missed out on Gorilla doing his gatekeeping, and in typical Gorilla fashion, he says, have a nice life, guys. Love you very much. Say hi to my mom.
He did his job. The poor Alistair is going to die for the 3rd time this game, but it's all worth it, you know. Except the one time he got caught in the Dragon Pit. He's been the sacrifice for his team. Griffin is going to be evening things up here in terms of the Drakes, unless Cuz can try to steal it, but it looks like he won't even go for it. It's 5 flashes and extra stuff versus 0 flashes on the side of Kingzone, so they got to be real careful with how they engage.
Definitely if the coach was in the booth, he'd be behind Chobi, giving him the rub and be like, this is the time. Gonna get those shoulders supple, get ready, get there for that big ultimate, because you have to make it work now. We've seen 2 matches from Chovy on the Orianna. This is the time, if there ever was one, to win a fight. But Kingzone also will mostly be wanting to just play side lane for the next minute and a half while they try to abuse their flash, the enemy team with the Baron buff. Griffin, if you think about it, do have a longer window because the Baron will run out and those flashes will still be on cooldown.
Kingzone struggling to find something on the map. Really just trying to push into top side, then having to back off, and they do not look confident to take any kind of team fight. So they're just sitting here, letting the Baron buff help them farm a little bit more, and that's about it. They get the extra gold, but not much in terms of pushing.
It's just a really peculiar situation where Kingzone probably not going to break the base of this Baron, right? It seems impossible. It's a minute left. They had to all teleport back after the Baron, so it's not been a huge power play. But think about what they did get, because you look down and you say, well, they lost their flashes, they lost to death. They didn't really get anything other than the buff. Watching Tarzan, who might be caught here. Chovy backing him up. They did get item completions out of this. They got an Infinity Edge that maybe if Griffin were the ones that put 2 control wards on Baron and baited, that would have never been there. They lost a team fight, no Baron, game ends. They got an Infinity Edge. They've got some pretty big tools with the gold to actually hit item spikes that now actually do match up to Griffin's quite well. So that's, to me, the big thing that was taken was they get the first position on the map, they trivialize the Baron for a time, and they have items that could win them a 5v5.
Yeah, and it looks like Khan is going to be happily pushing the bottom side with a nice little wave coming on in, and the ward to help keep him safe here. The rest of Kingzone is going to rotate on down, and he's actually getting a nice amount of damage done here on this turret. Knockback is going to do nothing from Tarzan, and it looks like Griffin is essentially giving this up.
Baron has one off, like you mentioned. Another objective, 4 turrets. I saw the 5, and that's Scuttle Crabs, thanks to TV. 7-5 in Scuttle Crabs, by the way. If this is a World Cup game, it'd be a banger. but it's also an exciting League of Legends game. We still feel like both these teams can win. You look at the gold advantage, it's gone up and down a couple of times here. Kingzone edging it with their Baron take. The Cho'Gath is huge, but the Gnar will increasingly do well against him in the 1v1. A second Baron comes in, maybe the 1v1 laning phase ends, but for now, it is still relevant.
You can see by this graph that the highest the gold lead has been in either direction was only 1.5 thousand gold. So it's been extremely competitive so far on the Rift. Neither team has gotten too big of a lead so that the other team could not come back. And this is the meta nowadays, guys. These good teams, they just don't really have the opportunity to push in before 40 minutes. They're just waiting for their opportunity.
We're still on 8:13 with hot fixes, so on 8:13, the death timers in the early game means that laning phases are longer because less punishing to die. And teleport back in. The teleport longer duration is an 8:14 change. We have been seeing game times increase. And the moment you see Orianna in Korea, where we've had almost no Orianna for a year and a half, you know the games are getting longer because Orianna's a champion who kind of sucks till 3 items, 4 items, honestly, is usually where she gets going. So given that, with the games tending longer, I'm interested to know your answer to this. If you could throw 6 items on all champions, who wins a 5v5 for you? I don't think there's a clear answer, but what would be your takeaway?
I'd probably say Kingzone. Honestly, it will very much depend on Griffin's positioning, especially the Taliyah and Orianna. If they get zoned out and the Shockwave doesn't get value, Taliyah can't do any of her combos, she might just die. Speaking of which, they're going for the Gnar here. It is going to be abandoned, this mission, but now Sword with this Frozen Mallet is trying to get on top of him. He's going to miss throwing the house at them.
Griffin's really slow. So Griffin's really quick, and Kingzone is really slow. They can't rotate. It takes a long time for the 3 members to walk down. That's why Griffin was thinking with Tarzan's rock surfing, you can make something happen.
Oh boy, there it is, the seismic shove and pray. In a lot of trouble, the easiest Shockwave is not even gonna flash out for that one. The wall's gonna come in, Tarzan, he's still on the chase, and oh boy, he ate his Wheaties tonight, but he flashed into 3 members and is gonna give his life away now. As OK gives the 1v1 away. Khan is going to get extremely low here, but has the backup of his team. But look at Viper, look at Sword. Trying to go for the chase here. BDD himself is going to have to flash again. So the Summoners go in the favor of Griffin, but man, Tarzan is getting pretty overconfident on the Taliyah.
You can understand why. He's had a huge game, but in that case, going into a blind area, trying to greed for another kill, just unnecessary. From the jungle, the open to this play is really good. They don't have vision in that brush. They spot BDD and Gorilla walking down, and Sword is able to ult first the Nocturne, but get the stasis. Pretty easy to hit that Shockwave. Still 1 member. We're waiting for the 3-man one to come later. In the live, we show the Baron because Baron spawns after this, but Tarzan is so over-aggressive after a good early game here. We're reaching the point where Kingzone is making low percentage plays, trying to kill the Gnar with flash up in the side lane, and now Tarzan following in on that greed by flashing in there. See what it means in terms of summoners. Tarzan and Sword flashing on the side of Griffin. Meanwhile, it feels like every time Kingzone have their flashes, they all just use it as a team.
I can feel for Tarzan because if you play enough Taliyah, you just know that a couple more rocks, you feel so powerful that a couple more Q hits are going to kill the Nocturne 100%. So it's kind of like you do the calculation, you're like, I kill him if I get the good flash, but then you just kind of throw out the window all the other information about, you know, where is Gorilla and Prey, where is the enemy team? And you can definitely get carried away a little bit on the Taliyah, but we have a macro play going on here. They're going for the Baron right now. Taliyah, the wall is available, but it looks like they're being very cautious about this, as it looks like Kingzone, we're thinking about the mid lane, but now they get some vision onto the Baron. Gorilla is going to be pushing forward. It's going to go to about 5,000. Khan looking for the flank here. All of a sudden, you got a Cho'Gath in front of you. Prey is going to miss that never move, and it looks like for now, okay, the wall is going to miss and trapping anybody there, and the plant was there as well. So no Baron, no kills. We return to equality.
So excited for the potential of Griffin's team fight. Remember, Taliyah wall is something you can be comboed with the Gnar ultimate for the stun into a shockwave. That would be some sick wombo that's available to Griffin. They know that this is the area they want to fight, where potentially a shockwave can rip through the no-flash Kingzone team. They get the ult out of Gorilla, but they turn off the Baron.
It's really big, though. You know, it's going to be a lot harder for Gorilla to really live here. They're now on the chase for Khan, but he does have that blasting plan. Paranoia comes in, and a Q onto the Orianna, I suppose, but look at the waves, guys. Observer has been on top of showing this. The bot and top side are pushing in. Khan is going to show himself. Tarzan is getting really low. Gorilla with no ultimate. It's going to be a 50-50. Trying to come on in. Here is Cuz, and he's not going to get it as Talia picks it up. Gorilla also going to go down here. The Shockwave gets the DA out of Yasuo, but now Prey in the backline with his Swain is trying to take out Tarzan here, but the rest of the Kingzone just on the run. BDD not able to turn it around. Prey gets the kill on the Talia. Viper is getting low on mana, but they do get the kill onto Swain. And now it's only Khan on the run as BDD has left him alone to push the mid lane. Should be a kill onto the Cho'Gath, as it is 4-on-1. Even with that stone plane, he's really trying to get Lehens, but the silence is gonna miss. BDD does clap back with the turret, but definitely a one fight for Griffin.
The sideways are in such a wonderful spot. A slow push in the bot side only now. Going to be getting the inner turret, the top side the Cho'Gath had to go to. It's the right move from Griffin because Kingzone doesn't have flash on the Cho'Gath to contest. That's why they pull away. No control ward in the pit this time either. It's the right Baron call. It does end up being a 50-50, which isn't ideal by any means, but the ensuing team fight was always set up to be won by Griffin. A one-man shockwave to get the Guardian Angel is just fine onto BDD, and then from there they can just approach from so many different angles that the short-range threats from Kingzone are eventually cleaned up.
That's why I said that ultimate out of the Alistar was also super important. Just fell apart. They have so much burst damage and so much magic damage. You look at the items of the Alistar, without his ultimate, he just melts like a piece of paper. It's like he doesn't even exist, and that's exactly what happened. Tried to get the engage on the Viper, but he's Ezreal, so he just arcane shifts away, and then Alistar dies. But the one objective of the Baron does move over into the Elder Drake as well, and Griffin is very fast running away with this one.
Definitely not to the huge tunes just yet, but you know that standing gold is going to be cleaned up. You feel like, unless Griffin are womboed on, they're going to find it very, very hard, Kingzone, to actually close in on multiple threats, and getting a pick is seeming impossible. They tried to pick Sword about 8 times and found no value out of it. Griffin have this Baron for another minute 40. That's over 2 minion waves, probably 3. And thus they walk up, and very little Kingzone can do. They have full commit, or they have to pull away.
Even Viper's getting really frisky, just eating forward into Prey. Chunks him out for about 1/4 of his health with just 1 Q in the red buff, and now they have a really nice push in the mid lane, looking for some Nexus turrets. The wall is going to come down here, but it will be blocked. Cancelled in the end. Still looking at this mid lane, though.
And they got the double buffs right for another 50 seconds, so they're feeling so good about a fight, even if it does happen.
Yeah, just zoning him out, playing this Talia and Orianna perfectly, but there's the engage from Gorilla, is gonna use his ultimate, looking for the backline is Cuz, but he's gonna go down so fast, his GA will disappear. Sword is in the normal Gnar form, and now Cuz is gonna get super low. They're really trying to take him out here. Here comes BDD into the backline, is gonna get the knockup on the head, but then he disappears to 1 dissonance from the Orianna. Toby is now extremely farmed. Kingzone is able to go back into the base, and they need to get back here for the defense as the Nexus turret is going to go down. Let's go for trying on the number 2, says Kingzone. But the damage is coming in. Prey gets super low, and they take him out. Tarzan with no more mana, but it does not matter. Griffin do have the damage with Chovy and with Viper, and they will take game number 1 in exciting fashion. 41 minutes to take the cake.
Their objective play is what separated Griffin and Kingzone. That was a fundamental that Kingzone had been tricking out on that wasn't working for them here, whereas Griffin getting the Baron and then the Elder forced Kingzone into a lose-lose. Against the double buffs, you never want to take a team fight. By the time they did, they were poked out, they were low health, and thus they couldn't win. Good game 1 victory for Griffin. The pause did derail the momentum a bit in the mid-game, but Griffin's decision-making ended up being more razor-sharp than Kingzone when it mattered.
They were able to just make this game go on for such a long time. The early game was kind of boring. There was only 1 kill. Eventually, Some kills happened after 20 minutes, but it wasn't enough to get Kingzone rolling, and eventually the Ezreal, Orianna, Taliyah combination of all of that poke damage and all of that pick with the Morgana for help was just way too much for Kingzone to handle.
Well, that was a very exciting game number one. Does it mean that Griffin will be able to close? So he's got to say, much more competitive than when Griffin and Kingzone faced just a few weeks ago. So, Cuz packing up his keyboard, we all know what that means. We're going to have a player change. Peanut will be coming in for game number two. We wanted Kingzone to be aggressive. They were to a point, but probably not enough. Maybe Peanut will bring the aggression.
Certainly. We'll have to wait and see if he can. But guys, first, we'll go to a commercial break before we do get into game number two of Kingzone versus Griffin. Should be a fun one. Go out there, tell your friends this is on. We'll be right back.